Hey Warpugs, so today we have a request from the Patreons. This is from King Logan 3095, and this is pretty much the battle off of Samar. This has been, since this video was put out, it has been retitled to incorrectly describing the battle off Samar. I don't know what to believe. I also don't think I remember what the Battle of Samar is, but that's because I'm an idiot. In any case, we're going to jump into this. I have never seen anything from the creator before, but this is done by, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Naichen Zhao. I know I butchered that. In any case, we're going to jump into this. Guys, all of Naichen Zhao's links are going to be in the description down below. I would recommend you go check them out. And, yeah. I got a feeling this is going to pertain to a naval battle just because of the opening scene here. Ah, the ocean. So deep, so mysterious. Oh, God.
Imagine this. It's a nice, bright day. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping.
Yes.
What could go wrong? When,
everything.
Wait. What's that on the horizon?
Oh.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
It's the Japanese.
Yay!
They've been able to sneak their largest attack force in history right next to you, and they're bearing down fast.
That's bad. Okay.
So, let's set the scene.
Let's do it.
The entirety of the Japanese center force is bearing down on you. A force of 4 battleships, 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 11 destroyers. And what do you have? A group of tin cans consisting of 3 destroyers, 4 destroyer escorts, and 6 carrier escorts. To put this into perspective, the Japanese flagship Yamato alone displaces more water than the entirety of your force combined. What?
This is usually a bad sign. And now I remember this. I am a boomer.
What do you do? Admiral Sprague orders a retreat as the water erupts from Japanese shellfire. Burdened with the escort carriers, the Japanese ships are slowly gaining on Taffy 3. During this commotion, the American destroyer, the USS Johnston, decides it wants to be the protagonist of the story.
Yes.
And goes...
Yes. Yes, it did.
Laying smoke, the Johnston does a 180 U-turn, deciding to fight the Imperial Japanese Navy 1v23.
Right.
The Johnston sets its sights on the Kumano, as the Johnston pits its 5 5-inch guns against the Kumano's 10 7.9-inch guns, because that seems like a fair fight.
Yeah, this was...
The Johnston somehow is able to not get hit, while simultaneously scoring multiple hits onto the Kumano superstructure. As it does, the Johnston fires off its 10 torpedoes, blowing off the bow of the Kumano. The heavy cruiser Suzuya goes to support its fellowship, as both are put out of action. So thus far, by some miracle or sheer plot armor, the score is 2-0 for the Americans. As the Johnston decides now is maybe a good time to retreat. As this is happening, the other 2 destroyers begin their attack, as 3 ships make their way towards the Japanese attack fleet. Wait, 1, 2, 3 ships? But minus the Johnston, the Americans should only have 2 destroyers. For you see, this is an example of simple deception. Not wanting to miss out on all the fun, the destroyer escort USS Samuel B. Roberts decides to rush ahead with the other destroyers. The Samuel B. Roberts keeps in line behind the Heermann and Howell, a feat only managed by the Roberts putting its boilers on full tilt, as it applies over 660 pounds of pressure to engines which are only designed for 440. Nevertheless, despite possessing less than half the gun and less than a third the torpedoes, the Roberts still charges on ahead towards the massive Japanese fleet. Meanwhile,
well, if the choices are death or charging a Carnifex with the table leg, you're going to charge the Carnifex.
The Johnston's plot armor has run out, as it is hit by the massive 18.1-inch shells from the Yamato. The Johnston's bridge is destroyed, and one of the boilers bursts, greatly reducing its speed. Just a note, the Yamato reports sinking the enemy cruiser.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
But the Johnston,
As you can see, I am not dead!
Too angry to die, still continues to chug on as it enters a nearby rain squall, blocking it from the Japanese ships as the Johnston begins its repairs. Now, this would usually be the point where American ships would use their radars as a way to find their target, but the Japanese, deciding aimbot was too OP and voluntarily nerfing themselves, do not possess such technologies, and so cannot continue fire on the Johnston. At this
Radar was so new back then.
point, the destroyer group begins its torpedo run. The Johnston, deciding that dying was for casuals, makes another U-turn and jumps right back into the action like a mad lad. As this is happening, the Heermann and Hoel fire off their torpedoes, forcing the Yamato to bank hard, essentially putting it out of the battle for a while. As this is happening, the Samuel B. Roberts stumbles upon the Chickamauga, which was laying heavy fire on the carrier escort USS Gambier Bay. So, what should the Samuel B. Roberts do?
It's free real estate.
The Roberts begins firing on the Chickamauga, blasting holes into the cruiser's superstructure. Due to its higher rate of fire and better fire control, the Samuel B. Roberts scores multiple hits on the Chickamauga, which fails to even land a single shot on the destroyer escort. The
Oh
Samuel
my
B.
God,
Roberts
the
kept
JoJo
firing until
music.
it ran out of armor-piercing rounds. When this happened, they switched to high-explosive rounds. When that ran out, they shifted to anti-aircraft. And when even that ran out, they switched to star shells, which had a surprising effect of starting fires across the Chickamauga superstructure. Over the course of this confrontation, the Chickamauga was hit over 600 times.
God!
A lot of damage!
Damn!
While this was happening, the American destroyer, Howell, after being ganged up by the
I knew a little bit of, like, once he started talking and, like, he mentioned the destroyer charging, I remembered some of the details of this battle, but I did not remember, well, I never went this in depth into it.
large Japanese ships and is dead in the water. The ship will sink not long after. Meanwhile, a Japanese destroyer squadron moved to attack the American escort carrier group when, knock knock, guess who it is?
Oh.
It's the USS Johnston. Fighting a 7-1 battle, the USS Johnston scored multiple hits on two of the lead Japanese destroyers, while tanking shots left, right, and center. But this is a 7-1 battle.
True.
I mean, it's barely fair. The Johnston would have to retreat, right?
We have you
7-1. I like those odds.
By sheer force of will, the Johnston flexes on all 7 destroyers, forcing the Japanese ships to release their torpedoes early as they back up out of range of the Johnston's cannons. Meanwhile, the Samuel B. Roberts, after essentially 1v1ing a ship considerably larger than itself, is ganged up on and jumped by multiple other ships, including the Yamato,
That's bad.
Nagato,
That's bad.
Haruna, and Kongo. Reenacting what happens when a group of burly men beat up a small orphan, the Roberts is pummeled under the weight of constant fire of the larger ships. Soon after that, the Samuel B. Roberts will sink. As this was happening, the Chokai then barreled down on the considerably slower carrier escorts. Now, this is an entire heavy cruiser pitted against the single 5-inch gun of a carrier escort.
Yeah, they were not heavily armed. Like, not.
Clearly, the Japanese are gonna win this engagement, right?
In case you haven't noticed, you've fallen right into my trap.
But for probably the 5th time that day, the Americans activated the plot armor card. A booming sound is heard as an explosion resonates from the Chokai. What was likely a strike to the ship's unfired torpedoes from the White Plains' single 5-inch gun. The explosion cripples the Chokai as it limps away. The Chokai will later be kill stolen by an American plane.
Nice.
So, one more kill from the Americans, I guess. After being battered by countless shells, the Johnston is sequentially ripped apart by incoming fire. Even the Johnston's plot armor is not enough to stop it from sinking. Soon after, the US carrier escort Gambier Bay slips below the waves as well. It will be the only naval carrier to be sunk by enemy artillery in US history. Finally, Admiral Kurita of the Imperial Japanese Navy orders a withdrawal. After a hard-fought battle against insurmountable odds, the Americans won. So, in the aftermath of the battle, the Japanese had 3 heavy cruisers sunk, and 3 more heavy cruisers damaged along with 1 destroyer. The Americans, on the other hand, lost 2 destroyers, 1 destroyer escort, and 1 carrier escort, with the rest being damaged. Well, dang, these numbers don't make any sense at all. What seemed like a clear-cut victory for the Japanese Center Force actually resulted in an astounding defeat against American force multiple times smaller. Like, if this were to show up in some sort of novel, you'd be yelling at the author for giving the Americans way too much plot armor.
Right.
Looking back at the battle, and seeing how the Americans essentially charged forward against an unstoppable army, this is arguably an act of heroism in the face of danger. But we often stop there. A nice story of our heroes charging bravely into danger, achieving just barely a victory in the nick of time.
Right.
But that's not the entirety of the story.
Let's hear it.
There's this question of, how did this happen? At the time, America possessed the largest navy in the world. They had more ships in the local area than the entirety of the Imperial Japanese Navy. So how was Taffy III left outnumbered? First, we must consider Admiral Halsey of the US Navy. Part of the Japanese plan was to have a decoy force draw away the American fleet. And it worked, with Admiral Halsey chasing the decoy force, leaving large sections of the American attack force undefended. With Halsey's 3rd Fleet gone, and Kincaid's 7th Fleet blocking Surigao Strait, no one was there to support Taffy III if the Japanese snuck through San Bernardino Strait. Thus, this entire lopsided engagement was caused by a combination of poor logistics and reckless aggression. Another thing, after every major battle, there exists the cleanup and aftermath.
Right.
The time to rescue survivors and tend to the wounded. Many of the loss numbers were not due to the initial battle, but instead, because of Admiral Kincaid's botched rescue attempt, many sailors were left abandoned at sea, dying due to lack of supplies, drowning, or even shark attacks. You have soldiers who charged bravely into danger being left for dead by the largest and most well-supplied navy in the entire world. This entire battle was an amazing turn of events for sure, but it shouldn't have happened if not for faulty planning and hasty leadership.
Right.
Countless deaths were caused by this carelessness and lack of communication, something that really shouldn't happen. So ultimately, yes, we should tell the stories of these heroes. But we should also remember what events caused these things to happen in the first place. What avoidable mistakes took the lives of hundreds of sailors.
Right. This was a school project? This guy made this as a school project? This is the best thing I've ever seen. Like, this is awesome. This is absolutely awesome. I love this. This needs to be... Oh my god. This is outstanding. Oh my goodness. This is crazy. I love it. Okay, look. So this was a school project. And it was this good. This is what... This guy should be this guy should, like, should legit do... They should do more stuff like this. There should be more stuff like this. Like, legitimately, there's a future here for this. There's a future here for this, guys. Definitely go to this channel. Show them support. I'm going to be having their links in the description down below. Definitely go show support for this. I know I'd love to see more stuff like this. This was awesome. I loved this. There's not enough history. There's not enough historical channels out there that do humor. There's not enough of them that do humor. And honestly, it should... Yes. Most definitely. This was outstanding. I love this. I recommend this. Guys, all the links are going to be in the description down below for Naichen Zhao. 100% recommend you go check out his channel. All of my links are going to be in the description down below as well. Thanks for the recommendation. I'm going to head off from here. That was awesome. And I'm out. I'm done. Yes, fear the Johnston, for it is coming for you.